Hello everyone. So I wanted to do a tutorial on transferring scan data onto a MetaHuman. If you've noticed when you're using MetaHumans, especially when you start doing a custom MetaHuman, they've got a great library of textures, but they all kind of start looking a little bit undetailed, and there's just this almost blurriness, like they've got like a Snapchat filter on. So if you want to get your custom MetaHuman up to the next level, we can use scan data, and you don't have to hand sculpt every single pore. So I'm going to show you how to transfer that scan data onto your MetaHuman today. So we're going to be doing the head only today. I will be doing further videos on transferring scan data onto the body, but this is my custom MetaHuman. And I've done the custom sculpting with the scars and the main shapes, but I want to get that higher fidelity. I want to get these nice pores, and also I'm going to transfer the poly paint from the scan data onto my character too. So the pores match the paint. I'll also be transferring all the other maps, the roughness maps and stuff, so we can use those as well. So we'll get a much higher fidelity MetaHuman out of this process. Also, so yeah, I did his hands too. These are scan data this is from scanned hands, and you can see they're much more realistic. So I'll be doing an entire video on transferring scan data for the body as well. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be working in ZBrush today, and I'm going to be using a plugin in ZBrush called ZWrap. It's from Wrap 3D. So if you don't have it, I highly recommend it. If you're going to be working with characters, it's worth buying. If you're not, and you just want to try this out, you can get the trial version. But yeah, we will be using a third-party plugin called ZWrap. So we're going to start off with my MetaHuman. This is my custom MetaHuman. I've sculpted on custom features. I've got the base, it's rather detailed, but I don't have my pores. So if I were to bake out this normal map in Unreal, it's still going to have that very fuzzy Snapchat filter look, especially with the skin shader. On a skin shader, the subsurface scattering makes everything kind of fuzzy, so you want extra details when you're doing human skin. So we are going to be using a scan from 3D Scan Store. I'm going to be using this gentleman right here. I like this because he's got a lot of wrinkles, and I kind of want my guy to look like he's this old Dr. Hyde looking British fellow, so I want him to have, a weathered look to him. If you want, 3D Scan Store does have a free head that you can use. It is a female, but you can still start by transferring those pores and then add extra details from there too. So the first thing we're going to do to set up our head is, since I've been working on this, he's divided up to 6 million polygons. That's all I'm going to need for the amount of detail we're creating, and a 4K texture map. 6 million polygons is fine. If I divide it again, I'm going to be at 24 million, and I can get more detail out of it. It's definitely going to take longer to transfer everything, so it's a give and take, and considering how good our mesh looks with 6 million, I'm happy with that. So I'm at 6 million. I've sculpted all of my custom shapes. I'm ready to transfer the details from a scanned model. Okay. First thing I want to do though is I want to open up the mouth of my character. The reason I want to do that is because when I transfer over my details and do a projection, I'm going to get a bunch of errors in the corner of this mouth, and I'm never going to get the details in the corner of this mouth. I'm always going to have to use a morph target or smooth them back, so I'll just have to hand sculpt them. So whenever I'm doing detail transfer stuff, I open the mouth, but I don't want it permanently open. I want it to be able to kind of reset back to this position, right? So I'm going to create a layer in my layers channel. I'll create a layer. It's recording now, and I'll open up the mouth. So with the layer on, I'm going to drop down to my lowest subdivision, which is 24,000 polygons. I'm going to turn on my symmetry. I'm going to hit the W key for transpose, and then I'll hold Control and drag down, and that's going to allow me to create a mask. And it likes to kind of mask around features. So this allows me to mask around my lips without having to draw, kind of move back and forth. If you've ever had to mask the lips on a closed mouth and haven't used this method, it's pretty frustrating. So I'll hit the Control W. That's just going to create a polygroup out of my masked area. If I hit the Shift F key, I'll see my polygroups, and I can Control Shift left click that polygroup, and I can see I've got a pretty good selection of that top lip already. So I can Control Shift and left click drag to flip my selection, and now I just want to add all of these polygons to the other polygroup. So I'll just Control Shift and drag, and then when I'm ready I can just hit the Alt key, and that's just going to send them to the other side. I can hit Control W to make a polygroup out of what is visible, and then I can Control Shift left click drag to flip my selection, and Control W here too. And now I've got two different polygroups. So I'm just unmasking now. I just Control dragged outside of my mesh to turn my mask off. Now I can Control Shift click this side of the mesh, and I'm just going to drag a selection right around there. I don't want this part of the neck moving, so I'll hit Control and then Alt to remove my mask. And again, I've got symmetry on. So this allows me to mask out my mouth and open it pretty easily. So I can Control click on my mesh to blur. I'll flip this and blur again, and now I'm ready to move. I'm going to turn my symmetry off by hitting X. I'll hold Control and hit this little map icon that's going to center to the unmasked region, and then I'll hit Alt and the little arrow that's going to reset it, and then I can Alt drag it right to where I want it to pivot from, and I can open up my mouth. Now it looks a little bit weird. This is fine. We're not using this sculptural information, right? We're just using this to separate the lips from each other so that when we project, we're going to get this detail right here without a bunch of projection errors. I think that this crease might cause me a few problems, so I'm just going to go to my move key. My move brush. Got all my, you know what, let's turn our symmetry on. Let's see, no, that's fine. I think that'll do all right. Yeah. All right, so doesn't look great, but it's exactly what we need. We need these lips separate from each other so that when we project from the scan data, we're not going to get huge projection errors around that mouth. All right. Perfect. So I'm ready to start transferring. I'm ready to start my scan with the ZWrap. I'm ready to wrap my scan. I'm going to wrap my scan around my MetaHuman head. All right, so let's go ahead, and I need to bring that scan into this subtool stack, right? So I've got the scan as another Z tool, and I just need to, with the making sure that the head is the one selected. It is. I need to go. I guess it's not selected. It just needs to be at the top of the stack of the subtools. Now I want it to be right up here. So instead of appending, I'm going to say insert since I've got that selected, and I'll grab that head. All right, and I grab that head and I hit F to frame it. And where is it at? Where is it at? Where's my other head? These guys are in totally different. Okay, he's down there somewhere. All right, there he is. So I'm going to scale him up. There he is. All right, so scale him up and move him up. Now I might be getting some errors here. Oh no, he's at the highest subdivision. something you want to make sure that you do is when you're scaling like this, make sure that your subdivision's at the highest subdivision. If I'm at my low poly and I scale, I seem to get errors in my texture maps or my details. So I want to scale my scan and move him to where he's relatively close to my MetaHuman. The reason I want to do this is once we get into wrap, we're going to activate the symmetry on the views, and so we want to be able to rotate around these guys real easily. So I'd say that's just about perfect. Yeah, right there. Perfect. So I'm going to save a version of this just so we don't lose any of this if something crashes. We'll wait for that to save. Okay, so it is saved. And we are, let me just go to my lowest subdivision on my head one, because that's the one I want to transfer. And I think it'll actually switch them to their lowest subdivisions regardless. Now, metahumans do have skin, or polypaint. So polypaint can help in transfer, but I've got enough landmarks like the M shape on this, and got enough landmarks on this sculpt. I don't really need a polypaint, so I'm going to go into my Z plugin. Now I always forget the order of these. I want to make sure this is visible. They need to be the top two subtools. So it's only going to, ZWrap is only going to grab the top two subtools, but I always forget, do you want to wrap with the, I think the first one is the one you want to wrap, and the second one is the one you want to wrap to. So I'm going to grab this head, and I'm going to hit this up arrow, and that's just going to move it up in the stack. I'm pretty sure that's what I want. So let's go to our Z plugin and start wrap. Oh, there was another head there. I didn't see that. Okay, let's close that. So yeah, this is the top one will be the one you're wrapping, and the bottom one will be the one you're wrapping to. All right, it's going to transfer this onto that. But I've got another head in the stack, so I can just delete that. Sure. Okay, now let's go ahead and run our C startup again. All right, perfect. So this is exactly what we want. We want to wrap this scan onto this character because we're going to project all of these details just by using our project, and we're going to project our polypaint too. All right, so the things that I want in my ZWrap, I want to make sure that my X on both of these is on, and sync views. So sync views is just going to allow me to turn them at the same time, all right? And if they weren't the same size or in a good position, they wouldn't rotate so accurately. This X is just allowing me to put 2 points on at a time. So these points are going to allow us to tell wrap exactly how to wrap this. And we just have to pay pretty close attention to what we're doing. So I'm going to do the corner of the nose first, and I'll do the corner of the nose here. I'll do the corner of the mouth here, the corner of the mouth there. Let's do, and just make sure you just go back. You can do this relatively slowly, because if you get out if your numbers get out of order and you have to go back, it's a nightmare, especially when you're getting up into the hundreds. When you start doing body stuff, you can be at like 150, and it's really a bummer to have to undo all of them. I'm going to do this corner of the eye, and we're going to say that's right there. We'll do this right corner of the nose where the brow meets. We'll do this outside corner of the eye, and we'll do the same here. Top of the brow, following up to that arc, following up to that arc. All right, so look, we have an error. See how I got 10 here, I got 10 and 11 here, and my symmetry is supposed to be on, but my 11 didn't show up. So I'm going to undo, and I hit it. I go again, and I see that. So this model is asymmetrical. I made sure to sculpt it with asymmetry. Now, if I go over here, I'm not getting a point on both sides, but strangely enough, if I go here, I am. So we'll do that, but it's flipping them. So I can turn my symmetry off and just add them by hand too. I just need to make sure I've got 10 and 11 in relatively the same spot there. I'm going to do an inside of the eye project too. I could have just masked these off, but it's all right. It's okay. So let's do a lower lip here. There we go, perfect. Let's do an inside back lip. And I'm kind of going straight up from these, so let's go straight up from here, right around there. And let's do the top of the M, saying that's right around there. And we'll do an interior of the lip, the upper lip. I'm coming down from here. Okay, again, we've got a problem. I'll just turn my symmetry off. Come straight down there. Make sure that I've got my 2021. Okay. Now I can't see the inside of the mouth here for the mouth bag, so we're just gonna have to deal with that as it comes. And maybe I should have opened his mouth too. That might have helped. Let's go ahead and do that neck point. I'm gonna say that's right around there. That's right around there. We can do the jaw. That's pretty easy. Right here, right here. And then the ear is pretty easy too. We'll go in the corner here, top, top. Okay, so look, I'm looking at it, I see 27 here. I know something's gone wrong because I see 28 here. So I got 26, but 27 did not, and 29 did not. So I need to go back, go 27 here. Turn symmetry off. And it seems like this side is a little more friendly, so maybe we'll go from this side for a second. 28 here, 28 there, do the lobe, 30, 30, okay, we're getting, but look, it didn't do 31, so I'll turn my symmetry off. Now I could, if I wanted to, I could do a smart resim on my mesh to get a perfect symmetry before I do this. I've already sculpted all of this asymmetrical detail, even in parts of the face, so I don't want to do that, but I could. It will alleviate this issue. I'm just being cautious and kind of paying attention to where everything's going. So we'll do the top of the scalp right here. I'm going to say that's right around there. Do the base of the skull. Going straight back from the ears. Straight back from the ears. And then let's do this area of the neck. Awesome. And we'll do these edges. I just want to kind of get this to. Now, my MetaHuman's got clothes on, so I don't really have to worry about this area. If I wanted to do a character with a tank top or no shirt, I would wrap everything with an entire scan body and head, and have my entire character merged with the vertices. So then I could project all the detail, and there would be no seam. And I will show how to do that when we do the body. I did a video on getting your MetaHuman into ZBrush, so I'll put that in the description below, the link to that. And when we do the body, we'll address having a seam here, doing characters with tank tops or no shirt. For now, though, I'm just going to kind of try to match this. We're saying right down from here, right down from here. And then we'll go right across from 31. And then right down from 34. Yeah, that's close enough. Okay. And let's do some back of the scalp stuff right here. Now I like to do a single, I like to do a few center. So I'm going to turn my symmetry off and just kind of try and get dead center here and hit the center of the nose. We'll try and get it right there. We'll do one here too. And then the chin as well. And all my numbers match, so I'm pretty happy with this. Let's see how it goes. Oh, let's just do a back of the ear too. Every now and then that can become an issue. I have to say though, ZWrap itself and Wrap the standalone app are just so amazing. They are just brilliant and such a huge time saver. Okay, so I think I'm ready. All right, so I'm going to go to wrapping, and we're going to do cartoon wrapping. And this is going to wrap our MetaHuman. And it's relatively fast as well. All right, wrapping finished. Let's see if we have any errors. I do not see any errors. Look how fast that was. That's incredible. Now, if I really wanted to, I could go back to the points and select them to get them to wrap to these edges perfectly. I don't need that. This seam is not going to be a problem. My clothes come up to around here, so I don't need that. All right, so I can say done, and there we go. I've got my scan store wrapped to my MetaHuman. So you keep these names. If you want to, if I could rename this scan and rename this MetaHuman. So now if I divide this head up, I'm going to see all of these details. All right, and I can project them. I can also project the poly paint, but I need to make sure that it is a poly paint. And I'm seeing this texture. This texture, you see I've got no texture on right now, and I'm seeing poly paint. So what that's telling me is that this poly paint is just a texture map. So if I go into my texture map, I turn it off. So I want to make sure that this poly paint is actually poly paint, not a texture map. So I can say clone texture, and then I can, in my RGB at 100%, I can say color fill object. Now, if I turn this texture off, I've still got all my poly paint. So if I just have a texture and this isn't actually poly paint, it's not going to, I'm not going to be able to project this paint information. And I want all of this to be exactly the same as my detailed scan. So that's great. I'm loving this. So let's go ahead and go to our sub tool, and we're ready to start projecting. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I want to set up a new layer to project to. All right. Do this in layers and also morph targets. So we're going to go into our morph target. We're going to store a morph target. I deleted the old one, stored a new one. If I need to clean anything up, if I have projection errors, which I probably will around here, around the eyes, morph targets are your best friend for cleaning stuff up. All right, so then I'll also go into layers, and we are going to go, oh, sorry. I need to store a morph target at 6 million, sorry. I'm not sure if that matters, but let's just make sure. Let's delete and store a new one at 6 million. Go into our layers. Wait for autosave to finish. Okay, so go into our layers, create a new layer, and we can name this scan project, scan details. Let's do scan details. All right. Okay, so we're ready to go. It's in record mode. I'm going to go to subtool. Now I don't want to start right away at my 6 million. I kind of like to step up to it. So we're going to start at 300,000. We'll turn this guy on and we'll drop him down to around the same. 700,000 is fine. And with only these two visible, I'll grab my MetaHuman mesh that I want to project to, and I will go down into my project, which is in my, if I'm in my subtool, right down here is project, and I've got geometry and color. Right now color is turned off, which is fine. I just want to project my, I want to focus on my details right now, and we'll do our color when we're done with our details. So I'm going to say project all, just kind of with the defaults. Now this is going to be pretty fast since it's low poly, but we can see we got some errors. Okay, and they, fortunately though, around the mouth we didn't get any errors, and that is because we were saved. Look how smartly that ZWrap is so cool. It did the interior of the mouth like perfectly. I love that program. All right, give them money. Give ZWrap money, or it's Wrap 3D. So this is fine. I'll go down to my character, and I'm just gonna. You always get errors. You've got the, so I usually get errors here too. So let's just clean these up. I'm starting to get a good start though to my details. I'm liking this. I am liking this. So I'll hold Control Shift and just isolate these eyes. The reason I like this is because look, I can see my eyelids and that double lid and all of this absolute insanity. I'm going to turn symmetry off, just hit my X key. And I'll go brush and then hit M for morph. And we're going to go to our morph brush, which is right there. So using my morph brush, I can brush back all of these errors. And since I can see kind of the peaks and weird points to them, I can clean that back pretty fast. Now, it's causing issues as far as the details go, but we'll fix that. We will fix those issues. All right. Great, that's cool. And we'll do the ear too. Now, see how I'm morphing and it's not moving? That's because one of the polygons is kind of sticking through. So if they're inside of your mesh, they're not very nice. You want to get these ends and paint them back. So sometimes you'll have to Control Shift just so you can hide part of your interior of your mesh so you can get them to morph back properly. And a smooth every now and then will work too. Let's check the other ear. It is also having problems. So you can see from here, you can't really see the end of those polygons. And ZBrush always wants us to hit those polygon ends to get that morph to work properly. So I'm going to smooth this just to round it out a little bit. And yeah, I hit it with the morph too to bring it back to the original sculpt, and now I'm smoothing again. Okay, so we've got some errors in the back of the mouth too. If you notice though, when I hit it with this morph brush, it's expanding way back there, and that's actually what I want because that's the original MetaHuman shape. And this doesn't have to be too perfect, but I do want that mouth bag to kind of sit where the MetaHuman mouth sits. Now, we're just using this for texture map information, so that's not actually a huge deal. We're getting a normal map out of this, possibly a displacement map, and then all of our color map, and probably our roughness and specular too. We'll get a good cavity out of this too. The MetaHuman material uses a cavity map for the specular and uses it as a oh, I'm seeing another error. See this polygon right here? So yeah, I'll show you how to adjust the MetaHuman material too. So this polygon, there we go. Oh, I think I see. Is that another road? Oh, there's some road polygons. But we didn't paint back the other side, I don't think. But if I was using a smooth brush, this would take so much longer. This morph brush really knocks everything back nice and fast. All right, we're ready to project the next level. And I think I'm going to just go to my lowest subdivision on everything and save. Unfortunately, when you use wrap, it overwrites your file destination, which is a little bit annoying. But let's save a new version. It's always a bummer for you to hit project and it get the wheel and then never be able to come back and having gotten a lot of work done. So we'll go up to our next step, which is going to be 1.5 million for this guy, and I'm going to say 3 million for that side. That's fine. So I'll go down to this one, and we're just projecting detail again. So I'll say project all. This one might take a little bit longer. The final projection is going to be the one that takes the longest. Okay, so that projection, we did end up getting some errors in our lips. But if we had our mouth closed, those errors would just be insane. So we'll hide our top and start fixing our errors. Got my morph brush selected and just painting this stuff back. Now I don't like that. I don't want this to... Okay, that's actually okay. Okay, so we're going to do this again up at the very top level and clean, keep on doing the same thing. We're going to clean, we're going to project until we get our final mesh looking exactly how we want. And I'm not going to make you watch me just move polygons back and forth. So I'm going to pause the recording and I'll come back to you when all of this projection is done. This projection cleanup, I should say. All right, as I'm cleaning this up, I want to show you another little trick. Once we get farther into the projection process, so I've projected all the way up to my highest detail. I've got these errors, and there were a lot bigger errors. What I want to start doing is I want to stop using the morph brush, because the morph brush is going to push my base mesh back to its original position, which is part of what's causing this projection error. So if I smooth instead of project, I will get closer to my projection mesh, which will result in fewer errors. So another thing I want to do though, see I've got this error where my lid, this is always just a tricky area. This double lid is pushing through. And I want to smooth this part out, but I don't want to, I want to smooth the error. I don't want to smooth all this projected detail. So if I go down in my division level, it kind of goes away from this area. And what I can do now is just mask this area because I want to keep it. Oh, and I see I'm masking my, I'm masking my projection. So now I can mask this area at my lower subdivision. So when I divide up, I can start to smooth. Let's also isolate this. So I can see inside, I can see where all of that error is. Another thing I can actually do here, I see all of the error right there. Let's clear our mask. I'm going to hold down Control. I'm going to go to my brush. I'm going to go to auto masking. And down here I've got backface masks on. I'm just going to turn that on with my Control held so I can mask. And I'm going to hope that it doesn't mask the other side. So let's see, and it didn't. Perfect. So with that backface masking on my auto masking, again, while I'm holding Control for mask, I go into brush, go down to auto masking and just turn backface masking on. That's going to allow me to mask these points, and then I can just hit Control Shift, and that's going to flip it. So now these are the only things that are unmasked, and I can affect them and not any of this information. So I'm going to go down a subdivision level and smooth these again. Down another division. So this is kind of the game you've got to play. You've got to go through your subdivision level. So I divided up again, and I'll just keep doing this. Go down a subdivision. Another thing that helps is that while you're holding Shift, if you start to smooth and let go of Shift, it switches to that secondary. So I'll go up my subdivision, and you just got to kind of keep. I'll go to my final. See, it gets more extreme, right? I'm going through my divisions, but as I go lower and higher, so I'm going down in my subdivision here, and then I'll go back up, I start seeing that go away pretty much. So the beautiful thing about this is there's only a small portion of that lid that got affected by that, okay? All of this information stayed, which is awesome. Now I do see some more errors right here, so I can hold Control and drag select so I'm unmasking everything, and then hold Control and mask these points again. I've got my backface masking on, so that should allow me to only mask these points. Perfect. Go inside. Ah, yes, autosave, the thing I need to turn off when I'm recording. Okay, and I'll smooth. Now, I'm going to smooth. I'm going to go down a subdivision level, down another one, back up a subdivision level. And there we go, that's fixed. Now this one's got a few smooth spots, right? I can fix this by sculpting. Okay, I can either grab a section of this area as a clone stamp and stamp it, or I can just, put some skin pore on my, on my sculpting brush and sculpt those pores in right there. But that's a pretty good cleanup, and I didn't lose a lot of information. I do see this little guy right here. Perfect. And I've got a few errors right here. I'm going to go down to my lowest subdivision level, smooth that up, then go kind of step through. Now see, when I'm smoothing here, I see there's kind of a hole here. So I just want to go to the other side and smooth from the other side, and it'll fix that hole really fast. Okay, so let's fix this guy right here too. If I smooth from this side, I might be affecting the eye. Yeah, and I did, see? So what I want to do is just hold control to mask, and see I'm masking that vert. I can control click, and now I'm only affecting that single vert. So using masking while you're cleaning up these errors is a huge help. And I'm getting really close. I'm going to do another projection, and then I'm going to call it, and I'll just hand sculpt the rest of the details if I have to smooth them out. So I'm going to stop the recording while I project. And once we're done with our sculptural details, we will go ahead and project our color map. All right, so we have our details projected. They are looking great. I'm quite happy with them. This area right here is a little bit smooth, okay, and I don't want it to be. Also got a little error right there. So I'm gonna, in my scan details, I'm just gonna go ahead and smooth that out. I'll go down a subdivision or two and get that fixed. Now it's going up into that crack again like it was just doing before, so we just need to smooth from the other side. Okay, so to get these back to at least looking close, right? Because this is a lot of information. I don't think our audience is going to notice. It's probably going to notice. Our audience is going to notice if it's smooth like this, but I don't think our audience is going to notice if we just paint it on ourselves. So I'm going to go to my standard brush. I'll just go to this color spray or just spray, right? And then I'll just change my alpha to this alpha 7. And now I can spray on. That's giving me bump out, so I can hold Alt, and that's going to kind of bump in. And we're just going to, these smooth spots, we're just going to knock them back with a little bit of information. Now that might be a little bit heavy-handed. I'm going to undo that. And let's just change our Z brush, our Z intensity. There we go. Now we can hit it a few times. I'm holding Alt, and that's matching pretty darn close. So I don't need to clone stamp the skin. I'm just using this simple spray with that alpha 7, and we're getting pretty good. Now if I wanted to, I could go in with a skin brush or with some stamps, some clone stamps, and nail it with the skin. But that's fine. I mean, look, you can't really tell the difference between the two. So that's a fine way to clean up when you've got some kind of projection strangeness. Around the lips, you might want to do something that's a little more lip-like. So if I have this spray and I switch over to alpha 22, can be a little bit, no, that's more veiny. If I go to alpha 60 though, with my spray on, sorry, I can start getting some very lip-like stuff going on here. So alpha 60, when you're trying to fix the lips, I'm just going to turn up my intensity so you can really see it. It gives you a nice, if you leave it on a low intensity, it gives you a nice look for what the lips kind of resemble. All right, so we've cleaned that up. I'm ready to project my color detail. I've saved as well, but I mean, we've got a pretty awesome looking scan, right? We've got this scan on our MetaHuman. We have an issue though. If you've noticed, I lost all of my sculptural details. If I turn off this, so this is my scan details layer. If I hide that layer, you can see there's a pretty substantial difference in the silhouette. And sculpt, I don't have this divot anymore. I don't have my scars. These two look quite different, right? So there's a way to get my details from my scan on my character. And it's a pretty cheeky little thing that I actually found out on accident. So I'm going to turn on a new layer, and with this new layer active, I'm going to smooth this entire scan details. So I've got my layer recording, I'm going to smooth. I'm smoothing, and I'm just going to smooth real strong too. I've actually got smooth stronger on. That's in your brushes, in your presets. But I'm going to smooth as much as I can. So I'm just smoothing all of this back. Now there is a video on on sending scan details to your mesh, and he does something kind of like this, but he stores a morph target. I found another way that through making this a layer on top of our projected layer, like I'm doing right now, right? We've got our scan details that was projected. Now we've got this new layer where we're smoothing. It's funny, I did this on accident and it works awesome. So I'm smoothing all of this great detail information. Just going crazy with this smooth. I'm staying on my highest subdivision while I'm doing this though. I'm not lowering my subdivision. Okay. Highest subdivision, I've got smooth stronger on, and I'm just smoothing away all of those details. Okay. And that's about done. I can always go back and smooth more inside this layer. It's a beautiful thing about layers. So now I can turn off my recording on this layer, and if I hide my scan details layer, I'm going to get an inversion, right? Everything's flipped. You see how all of my details are opposite? But I see my original sculptural detail now. You see how I can see my sculptural detail, and I've got this scan information that's just flipped. Well, now I can just turn that new layer that I smoothed to -1, and let me flip it to -1, and voila, we have all of those projected details, and we've got our sculptural details. So we're able to get the scan stuff, and it's almost like a delta mesh. It's funny how this works, but this I just smoothed and then set this to -1, and it gives me exactly what I need. I don't really like this this information in my eyebrows, so I'm probably gonna fix that. I'd smooth it out and just use this same spray with the alpha, what is it, 7, and kind of fix that eyebrow area. Or I might grab a skin pore brush and fix it from there. But I mean, this is pretty awesome. I got a lot of work out of just projecting and cleaning up. I can go back into and add some more layers and really sculpt in these details where I want them. I know I've got this scar right here. I can emphasize that. I can emphasize this scar, re-emphasize this scar. So yeah, there's so many things that we can do after we've transferred these details. We've got a bunch of options, but now we've got a MetaHuman with a much higher fidelity texture. Use normals will look so much better. Your skin just looks a lot more realistic. And so this is a great beginning place. Another wonderful thing about the texturing XYZ transfers is that they have the color maps, the roughness maps, and a specular. So we can transfer those too, which we will be doing in the next set of videos. And then I'll show you how to bake your high resolution details in Substance. And I will also show you how to set up your material in Unreal. So that'll be the next video. But for this, we're done. We've got a nice high fidelity sculpt on our existing stylized character. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that stuff helps me so much, helps me get the word out, and I really appreciate it. Have a great day.